Alrighty, everybody. Welcome back to another Modern Deck Tech. We got our boy, Steve. Steve, what's going on, pal? How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. So you might know me from all the Jess guy that I've been losing with.
I see we got a list in front of us that isn't Jess Guy.
Not even a little bit.
So, Steve, for those who don't know, Steve won one of our local RCQs last weekend with Gruul Eldrazi. Is that what we're calling this?
Yep.
What do you want to call this?
This is just Gruul Eldrazi. I decided for the time being the Delirium package wasn't that good. Emrakul the Promised End, while it is really good in the control matchups, in the early aggressive matchups, you want your cards to be doing something.
Sure.
There is
I see a lot of cards here doing stuff.
Yeah, there is a slight edge that Through the Breach would have. Through the Breach, I mean, you're getting out an Emrakul usually on turn 4 or 5, sometimes 3 if you're real lucky. But Through the Breach is you end up with an uncastable Emrakul at the end of it. So against all what I expected the RCQ would have would be Boros. I just wanted to have action throughout the whole thing.
Sure. So let's start from the little stuff and work our way up to the big fatties. So just a little bit of main board. I see main board here. Kozilek's returns for your Boros matchups, I think, right?
Yeah, it comes in. I have 2 on the side as well to bring it in. It's amazing. It's also got this really cool line of text that says it's an instant. So you wait for them when they're attacking with their Guide of Souls, and you wait for them to spend that energy, and then you're just like, all right, wipe your whole board, and they're basically on the back foot for the rest of the game.
Yeah, so, and Kozilek's Return, if I'm not mistaken, if you cast an Eldrazi, you get the ability to...
Yeah, there's a triggered ability that you may exile it. You get to deal 5 damage to each creature. So
that's awesome.
It's real big.
You mentioned before Emrakul isn't in your list very clearly here.
Yeah.
I see some other unique choices that you decided to put in that slot.
Yeah.
So finishing up with some small stuff before we get to I'm getting a little ahead of myself. We got some Kozilek's commands. It's a 4 of. Obviously a 4 of the One Ring. It's just your card engine for the most part.
Pretty much.
Some Utopia Sprawls for your ramp. Your talismans to keep your mana in check too as well. Now I see over here in this line, I see for those of you who aren't aware, Breaker of Creation. Steve, talk to me a little bit about Breaker of Creation.
Breaker of Creation is I wish I could play more if it wasn't kind of dead at certain times in the game. But it's a cast trigger. You gain life equal to the number of colorless permanents you control.
Sure.
That's the big line of text there. That gives you the ability to recoup the life loss from the One Ring real easily against the aggressive decks. Usually, I don't think I was getting anything less than 8 to 10 life on cast.
I think I saw you cast this. I was watching over your shoulder through one of your games. I think the math shook out to be 13 permanents or colorless permanents, so you gained 13 life.
Yep.
Which was pretty crazy, especially since you were at like single digits.
Yeah.
And you're up past 20 at that point, which is almost irreversible, at that point for most matchups. So I see Breaker of Creation. I'm seeing the Sowing Myco Spawns for a little bit of more ramp, and also some some land hate too as well against your opponents.
Yeah.
Like everybody's playing really aggressive and greedy mana bases, so like being able to kind of poke at your opponent's mana base is really kind of strong right now.
Yeah, I've been locking Boros under their own Blood Moon, and it feels real good.
that actually kind of is a little wild.
Yeah.
I see the World Breakers here. I saw you cast this World Breaker a whole bunch over the weekend. So go ahead and talk to me about World Breaker a little bit.
So the big thing with all the Eldrazi they're all cast triggers, right? So you get to cast this, and it's going to be a 2-for-1 in some regard. And typically it's hitting a land. It might get a counterspell on the body. Consigned Memory is going to stuff you, but otherwise it's pretty good. World Breaker and Sowing Myco Spawn, that's pretty much the main game plan of the deck when you're playing out.
Sure.
You want to get ahead on mana and stay ahead on mana.
Yeah.
And that's what the rest of the deck is kind of facilitating. You have your Devourer of Destinies are probably your weakest card in the deck.
Which is kind of wild because it has a cast trigger of Exile target permanent?
Exile permanent, that's one or more colors.
One or more colors, got it.
So there's a lot of One Rings floating around right now, and it doesn't hit the One Ring.
Sure.
So, and it is a forced exile. So if you cast it with the Utopia Sprawl, you have to hit it.
Okay.
There isn't another option for it.
Sure.
So yeah.
Cool. Now let's move on to the what I like to call the big fatties. We have an Ugin the Spirit Dragon.
Yep.
We're throwing it back a little bit.
Absolutely.
A 2 of Ulamog the Defiler and 1 Ulamog the Ceaseless Hunger. So
yeah.
I know you briefly touched on Emrakul earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Why no Emrakul? Like I understand that it may be a little tough to cast in a deck like this. However, being able to cast that card is pretty ridiculous. So if you have the ability to do so, why did you steer against it?
And this specifically is the 15 mana Emrakul I was referencing.
Right.
It's mostly uncastable without Tron in the deck. If you're not really playing Tron lands, you're not able to get the 15 mana. Through the Breach will cheat that out early.
Mm-hmm.
But then you look at the Emrakul, the Promised End, and that's the Delirium one.
Sure.
And that one, it is good. I didn't have any copies, so this was a kind of
got it. Okay. Oh, so you just this was your filler.
This was the filler, yeah.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah. So the Ancient Stirrings instead of Malevolent Rumbles, and then the filler is this. If this was for Emrakul the Promised End, I would have been happier as well.
Sure.
The Ulamog Ceaseless Hunger,
Mm-hmm.
It's good enough for Tron. Good enough to play in here.
Sure.
Ugin the Spirit Dragon typically sees a 1 of in a lot of the Tron decks.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great way to just kind of stabilize. It gets rid of everything. You get rid of a Murktide with it. You get rid of whatever you need.
Yeah.
It's just gone. Ulamog the Defiler, I have won during the RCQ. I did win a game by milling somebody out.
That's wild.
just casting Ulamog.
Sure.
Otherwise, it's probably Ulamog. If there was another card that had just slightly better protection with the good Annihilator, I would probably be playing it, but it's kind of got a good mix of both. It
Sure.
does have a way to win the game on it. It does have a good way to just kind of attack with it.
Mm-hmm.
And if we kind of go to the lands here.
Yeah, I'm staring at a particular land that your hand just gestured over.
Yeah.
Arena of Glory.
Yeah.
Please tell me that you were able to cast
multiple times.
Give it haste.
Multiple times.
That must feel really good.
It's real good. It's pretty much lossless. I took out 1 basic forest for it.
Sure.
You have 2 red sources in the deck, which are Stomping Ground, Commercial District, as far as letting it come into play untapped.
You got access to green in other places.
But you're playing 4 red sources here and another 4 on the Utopia Sprawl. It's very easy to get out early.
Yeah.
It's lossless to it. It actually won me more of the games with the Arena of Glory.
All right, so let's move over to your sideboard here a little bit. I see 4 cards in particular. We got the 4 of Stone Ring and a couple more Kozilek's Returns, a Chalice of the Void, Bojuka Bog, All Is Dust, a couple Trinispheres, a couple Stone Brains, and some Surgical Extractions. Talk me through your sideboard and why you chose those cards.
So this is a Gruul matchup. So instead of playing Consigned Memories and splashing for the Teamer, I'm playing Stone Rains to fight against the other Eldrazi decks.
Sure.
You have to have some form of kill a land in this format right now, and pretty much 4 of them, or be able to counter Eldrazi.
I don't think your deck really lacks in that department.
No, it's very fun to bring them in, and against the Eldrazi matchups, it's just a land destruction. Kozilek's Return is for the aggressive matchups. You just bring the 2 in along with an All Is Dust.
Mm-hmm.
Bojuka Bog gets swapped in usually for a Wooded Foothills in the matchups that you want it. It comes in if you're playing against Flage, it's good to just kind of early hit their yard. If you're playing against a combo deck, you bring that in. It just comes in most of the time. If they're not playing like their own like Blood Moons or stuff, you could swap it with Beseiju.
Sure.
That's a pretty easy swap.
I'm seeing a card that I think would like fit really well in the sideboard. Why no Obsidian Charmoz for the mirror match?
Double red. Double red is the hardest thing, unfortunately, to get. You're playing a lot of colorless lands. I think the Malevolent Rumble builds can do it easier because you do get to rumble into it. You get to turn it back.
Interesting. Okay,
so because I'm not playing Malevolent Rumbles with the Ancient Stirrings, there are pros and cons for it. The Stone Rains just happen to be you can't get it off of Ancient Stirrings, but it's one of those things that Charma is better with Rumble,
Got it.
and that's just kind of where it comes from.
So, all things considered, a pretty interesting 75 here.
Yeah.
If you had to make any changes after your performance last weekend, what would you make?
I'm going to be swapping in a little bit, trying the Malevolent Rumble options. One of the things that came up weak was getting double colors under a Bloodman, or double colorless under a Bloodman.
Okay.
I opted to bring in a waste, and typically a waste and a talisman is good enough. But the Rumble lets you get that extra colorless earlier. It lets you kick the Myco spawn, which is the main game plan.
Sure.
And the selection to get with Shifting Woodland is really strong.
Sure.
And whenever you look at your graveyard, you're like, man, if only there was something else in here to get than a Utopia Sprawl.
Right.
You know, and so that was a big thing I was missing. Plus, having the rampant growth plus card selection is amazing.
Sure. Well, Steve, congratulations again on your RC invite.
Thank you.
Congratulations again on your RCQ win. I'm sure you're probably feeling still. I'm sure you're probably still riding the high for a while. But
oh yeah,
congrats, dude. I'm super proud of you. That's gonna be it for this Hive Mind Deck Tech with Gruul Eldrazi. We'll catch you guys in the next one. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Peace.